Okay, still no wind change. I don't know who that would help. It might be that the English could pull out of this battle and win at this point. It's hard to tell. They've definitely done some significant damage to the French. Of course, they can't completely leave the field. If they leave the field, and this is a fixed map with the shoals, then the French get to score damage points against them. So there's no real retreat available for the English, even though they're doing well. I set my command points. Got one little squadron up here. Another fair-sized squadron, everybody moving in the same direction here under Hardy. And then Hawk is able to reach all the way down to here. Not these adrift ships, obviously. But his command range is so big that he can command a muddled mess. That does leave a few British ships out of command, just a couple. The French had a harder time. They have this tiny squadron under Conflans, which is largely ready to die. He's got to activate and try to get off that ship before it sinks. And I'm not sure why he didn't in his last move, but except that I can't keep track of things. But he probably would have failed anyway with the low audacity his fleet has. Over here we have an interesting squadron running from here through these ships and this one, makes it over to here, and then chains over to these ships. So a huge swath of the French fleet is all to move at once. There are some out-of-command ships, and again, the out-of-commands have a chance to come back, or to come into command. Let's check. Yeah, so the British are going to get the initiative again, and I'll see if I can cure any of those out-of-commands. If I do, they make the whole issue of remembering what moves very complicated. Not quite sure what to move first, but the English move these guys. They get a stern rake on this one. Not too impressive. Although there's an admiral on here, and he would be well worth taking, perhaps, in a lot of ways. I chose not to attack there because, quite simply, I have to tie my fleet down, and all four of these ships are just waiting to sink. They are totally devastated. Capturing them is probably no good. So the only real advantage would be trying to capture the admiral. I wouldn't get a chance. I would have to sail up and grapple now, and I guess melee next turn or something. I don't know. And I don't really care. You know, this game really tires me. So now it's the French turn, and they have a bunch of ships that some of them are in command and out of command, and some of them are floating loose, and who knows what. This turn's turned out to be a lot less painful so far. The French slid by, almost no firing because there's not much left. There's this hulk here in the way. Now things are going to change when this fleet and this fleet engage. But what's going on here, I only had one British ship able to fire. I've taken some shots and some over here on this flank. But, and the kind of loose ships, the British loose ship here, I don't remember if I must not have moved this. These British loose ships aren't really able to do much. I don't know why this guy hasn't fired though. He's not going to do much when he does. I have no clue. Anyway, it's very easy to become disoriented in this game. So we're back on the Brits. They have one big squadron to move and some loose ships. We'll see. You know, without the fire combat going on, the game is actually fairly pleasant. The combat is just too detailed for such large fleets. It's really painful. And when you mix that in with the other factors, it stretches the turns out long enough that I need breaks in between movements, and it makes it hard to remember stuff. The combat system here is as detailed as I think just about anything for a sailing ship game. It's certainly much, much more complex than Fighting Sail was, which is part of why Fighting Sail is a better game for this style. I would take the combat type of simplified combat system from Fighting Sail, where you're not, you know, cross-referencing on the charts and everything so much. I don't mind that in a game that didn't have so many other fiddly aspects, but that much really adds in. It's just this overburden of too many fiddly things. Anyway, this turn went very easily because I didn't get to shoot at anything, or chose not to shoot at anything. So a couple more ships sinking here, but that's about it. Now we're pushing into turn 9. Geez, I wish they were all this easy. This game would be fun if you didn't actually play it. Here we are in turn 9, and the commands have gotten kind of stupid. For the English, not so much. I've formed one big one here. Hawk's command swings through here. There's an out-of-command dismasted ship here. That's fine. And then this little squadron up here under Young. Great. For the French, Confleurs commands nothing. The ship's out of command, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. No, Confleurs commands that ship. These guys are struck. If I can remember, I can try to get him off of one of them. This one's sinking and burning to the waterline and everything bad anyway. His whole squadron is pretty much wiped out. He could have commanded this, but that doesn't work for the simple reason that this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, makes it there. 1, 2, well, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay. So this, and this are under his command, but we've got this interpenetration going on as, who's this here? De Verger's command, which is in this direction, includes this ship and this ship. He's able to link and swing through here just like last turn. So we've got kind of this mix-up of two formations. Now these may not be the same ships as we're doing this last turn. They've just decided to follow another fleet or whatever. And I've got an out-of-command there. And I don't know if the English have one as well. So, well, we'll make our quick initiative roll. And the English win that. And then our out-of-command rolls the English. Oh, geez. Let's pretend that's that. Who knows? The English lose theirs, and the French. Oh, the French get to keep their out of command. The English have the initiative, and I don't know what's going on. Terrible. What I'd like to say is, the English will move this one. It's their lead formation. Get it out of the way. But the truth is, they don't really want to move them. They want to move these guys, including this one. The problem with that is some of these are going to start interpenetrating some of those, and it's just going to create hell. In terms of playing as best as I can, though, this is what I want to do because I get some shots in on here, whereas with these guys, the best I can do is kind of run away from the French. I can't really engage them. The way they're set up, they've got the advantage right now. I would like the French to come to me with that advantage. We'll see. Largest English formation indeed moves up. Can exchange some fire with a couple of these French ships here. This one tried firing, but it turned out he had no chance of hitting. He tried firing at someone 1 hex away. He's just so hosed that there's nothing left to him. It's just a smoky wreck. If the fire goes out, he could actually be able to hit on the worst chart. Well, basically he went off the chart here, and I don't know if that means nothing or what, but I played it as he's gone off the chart. I know if you end up not being able to hit because of this, you're off the chart, and I'm assuming that you also go off that way, but I don't know. Now it's the French turn to move something, and I don't know what to do. I'll probably move him to try to get the commander off that ship. The English did try to grapple with it last turn, but they failed. This turn they decided to just let it go. There's a good chance that he'll go down with the ship if he can't get off of it. Right now he's got, I don't know what he needs. It's not a bad number. He needs to roll a 7. He gets to add the fleet's audacity, and that's it. So he needs a 5 or better. And he's in command of this poor thing, but that doesn't really do anything. So we'll activate him first. And he succeeds. So I get to move him to the nearest undamaged ship. Well, what's nearest? I don't think I can trace through the Brits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like it's going to be one of these guys back here. I don't know which one's in better shape. I think this one is in a little better shape, so I'll go with this. They're about equally close. And then I get to move that. The French moved their out of command ship, and the English said, no, that's not good enough. Then they moved their this way facing command, which is all moved. Now, some of it is now facing this way, so it becomes less apparent what's where, and I have no idea anymore. Part of me wants to just say, hey, all these moved. But that's not the case. This one sailed right down the middle and got hammered doing so. Thought I could get some nice rakes, but I also gave some nice rakes, and actually I lost those rakes. I got no idea. I know these guys all moved, I think. No, this guy probably didn't. Who knows? Yeah, who the hell knows? Some of the ships will probably not move that are supposed to. Some will move that aren't supposed to. Hey, that's the way this game works, right? It's not like, we're trying to be an accurate simulation or anything with lots and lots of rules and lots of complicated fiddly stuff that, is just going to get blown away by making a little mistake that is very easy to make. Yeah, this is pointless. All right, well, the English have to move their front squadron, I guess. Nah, I could shoot that thing. That's mist of fire, or somebody sailed right by it and ignored it. The English were able to delay things with this, forcing the French to move their final column, which just mainly positioned itself. I think one of these ship got a strafing run across the bow of that thing. And then the English moved forward and exchanged some fire with the lead elements of the French fleet. We got a new wounded leader here. Is that our commander? I can't tell. Now it's time to see what survives and what. This wreck here finally broke up. One of these, I rolled a 2, which would cause most things to strike, but it's one of those huge first raters. Yeah, it's just not falling apart there. That moves us to turn 10, which is a potential wind change turn. And it's time for another break. Right, still no wind change here, and the English, with this roll, won the initiative again, a +4 from their big commander. I divided up the fleets. The French have kind of the ugly fleet this time. That should be out of command, actually. Essentially, they have ships heading this way, which is under this leader, and ships heading this way, mostly under this leader. The one exception, there's one ship here that I've decided to leave under this commander. Just a single ship. He's wounded anyway. The English probably want to go first, try to cut the T on these guys and shoot them up some more. They're going to suffer in response because there's a lot of French ships and a lot of weight coming their way. English open things up with a bunch of kind of longer range attempts at bow rakes. They got a little bit. You can see they only caused 4 hull hits to that lead ship. This is with just 3 of their ships passing by, but they managed to turn 2 of them around to face their unused guns without taking much loss yet. However, the French are going to come streaming up there and pile a world of hurt on those ships. Is that going to happen right away? I might delay things with this command, but I think overall, I think it doesn't hurt me to move them now. French moving up here and then forming into a line to cut across, catching the wind perfectly at this point. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they gave better than they got, and they're also set up in a very good position here. The English move up here is really dangerous. Of course, the ships are beginning to double back so that they can run alongside and mixed in with the French. but it's kind of a mess there. Next, Hawk Squadron sails, or command sails forward. And see, some of them have turned around. They basically swung in front of this lead ship. They've really hammered this thing. It's damaged now. Hawk himself didn't have enough movement points to do that. But now we've got a final wave. This final wave's really not going to make it up into the front, but it'll be a second launch as this is moving this way in parallel with the French. These guys are going to slam into them in another direction. That's going to be a mess and a half, there's no question. The lone French ship under commander managed to swing around and join the formation. He got some fire in there. Meanwhile, Hardy, is that who it is? Hardy? Can't really read, I think it's Hardy, has moved his ships forward like I mentioned. Did manage to grapple here, and that gets him an automatic capture on that ship. That's the big one. I hope to cut loose at some point. But the key there is, hey, if it doesn't sink, it'll be worth capture points, even though it'll have to be scuttled. I mean, you can't. It's got a lot of damage on it. It's over its rating, so it just, it's gonna roll over and sink at some point. So why bother capturing it? Well, because the scenario rules say that. I don't know. The striking and capture is a little funky in this. I don't like how it all gets scored. Now we're back to the French, and they have one last rather large squadron left, I believe. I'm not sure what this ship is then. This is all a squadron. That thing's not. Probably should have moved with something else. I don't know. But I'll move it on it. And as we move into turn 11, I think we just had one more French ship go belly up. I think it's bed. Okay, here on turn 11. The command splits were fairly nice, actually. One little one for the little mess up here for the English. A central wing here, which actually includes this ship. And then a rear section. Left me one out of command ship that I don't really care about. It's a vulnerable ship that I don't really want to get involved in the combat because it may well end up taking enough hits to sink. We've lost a number of English ships. There's 3 sunk right here. And I think... well, this one's at risk too, but that's okay. This guy struck, and there's a sunk one there. For the French, they were able to get everything under command. They also have lost quite a few ships, though. Up here, I set one command over here, which is slipping around behind the English side. Another one here, which commands this. And that's going to sweep through down to here. And then the final sort of mess is under Conflans. And that's that. I haven't rolled initiative, which goes again to the English. And they have a command check on that ship. And I think they actually... The chaos isn't even interesting to describe. That's one of the issues. So the forward... Not that it's terribly chaotic right now, this little forward unit of English. Yeah, they traded some shots with the French. Wow, that's exciting. So it doesn't even play well to the video, which is a good negative to it, but in the sense that it means I don't really want to do many of these. But it does bring something to mind. If it's not generating a good story for the camera, is it really generating a good story in my head? And the answer is largely no. So it's not terribly interesting to me because I can't grasp it. If I can't speak to tell you what's going on in any interesting way, if I can't put that story in light, I mean, you could play it out play by play, and that's really all I'm left with as to a story, is unless you have every single motion, you're not going to grasp the whole thing, and it's certainly not worth that. I chose to move this sort of left wing command, but what's interesting here is it's not these 2 ships. I have to somehow remember that those 2 ships have not moved yet. And, well, traded some shots with these couple of ships. This guy kind of sent a fire ship against. there are no special fire ship rules to this game, but if you grapple a flaming ship to a non-flaming ship, maybe if it's fouled as well. If you're able to, but you're not allowed to try to collide them, then the fire can spread. But obviously these ships have full crews, etc. They're not really trying to use them that way. So the English did some stuff and shots were exchanged. I mean, you know, it's weird stuff though. For example, this guy sailed by this one and is now facing in the other direction. It's cool stuff that if you caught it all as it's happening, it's kind of interesting. But you forget, because there's no formations that are operating anymore once you get into this. It's like the wheeling cav in Musket and Pike. When you get to those battles, really what I want to do in Musket and Pike, when I see one of those cav engagements, what I generally tend to do is say, oh, there's a bit of chaos over there while the cav's fighting. And I ignore that. And then eventually someone wins. Well, this whole game is that way. And yes, there are moments where it's kind of interesting, where it's cool to watch a ship sailing through. Unfortunately for me, that doesn't stick in my head very nicely. But also, it just doesn't add up to a story over the whole time. It's like these little instances that I'm not really able to capture. Have now slid their main rear formation forward. It didn't really get to engage. I was expecting to see it come into the French. Of course, there's this French squadron or whatever here that's going to be pushing towards it. There wasn't much I could do. I could try to delay by using my out-of-command unit and letting the French go, but they might not agree to that. This was all I had to move. And some final fire on this just to seal its fate, so that if it does survive, basically if it does survive, it's going to have more penalties because it's set up for a nice rake and fire into a lot of ships, but it's so weakened right now. Total damage on it gives it 16 hits. 2 added to its rate, that puts it up to a 7. There was a good chance that it would set on fire, actually. I don't want to spend too many shots on it, and certainly not first fire, but although I may have anyhow. So all we got left really is this little group there. An interesting factor, just the effect of the Audacity. There were a couple of ships here. One of them slid through here, got a bow rake on this thing, did almost nothing, killed a manpower, 1 Marine. Okay, whatever, maybe luck's not really that big a deal. But on an almost equivalent roll, the English, because of their +2 Audacity to their firepower rate, and these ships, if anything, this one's a little better off. And this one's grappled, that's not taken into account into the system, and you would think that that would reduce maneuverability, prevent it from avoiding being having the T crossed. No, that's not a factor here. Nor does it affect the firepower determination, although other things do, like firing a partial broadside there. This did 3 hull hits on an equivalent roll to the 1 manpower, which is almost nothing. You know, I mean, it's just really tough to actually fight these English, and you don't want to close with them, I guess. I guess the French goal is to try to maneuver around in this. Final French attack involved a couple of ships pounding that poor thing. But it's not in bad shape, because the French just can't hit the hull. They don't have the pluses to hit on the hull that they would elsewhere. They get a +1 from the wind, but mainly they don't have that big +2. These are damaged ships trying to shoot at them, and they end up on, you know, the 7 or 8 table and maybe roll low and get nothing. In fact, they rolled very low, because I remember this last phase I had 2 checks, which means a 0 roll on the special wind swamps the ship firing upwind event. Also finished off dismasting this thing. Shooting the hull of that is pointless, but taking its mast, at least until at this point, it had a high mast, high rigging hits, so taking the rest of the rigging out seemed like a good idea. Now I can't move at all. You know, I mean, it was at the what, -4 level before, so it couldn't get any movement points, but it could at least do the sternway to try to pick up the wind and get that one big movement point it would have left from whatever little sails were left. Well, now it's dismasted. It's got no chance. It probably won't strike. In fact, I know it cannot strike. The only way a British ship can strike in this scenario is if they both are dismasted and within the 3 hull hits. And even there, let's see, there the base is 1 or less. Now we're at -6, so if they have 2 or 3 hull hits left, they will not strike. So you have to get them down to 1 or less hull hits to have any chance of striking after dismasting them. This scenario just gives the British too many advantages to be at all fair. Not that that really matters too much, but it is kind of frustrating as the French. You feel like you have this nice fleet, and you really do, but it's not a fair fight at all, just because of the audacity effect, which feels, I don't know, if it's the term audacity, if it's how hard they're pursuing, it really should not be as big an advantage as it is. If it's God is on our side and all our shots hit better and do better, well, that's something different. But it seems to be who's the more aggressive. Being more aggressive should not give you that firing advantage. Maybe being British should, or being God should, but it seems a little extreme to me. In any kind of fair stand-up fight here, the French are just going to get hosed. All right, time for cleanup. Push up to turn 12. Not a lot here, of course. These guys couldn't ungrapple during their turn. Some danger of this sinking. Some danger of a lot of things sinking. Some did. 2 French ships and an English ship went down. The English ships here. French ships were kind of in the center here. You can see there's becoming kind of this mess of hazards. And there's a problem with those because you can collide with them, and you have to kind of try to avoid. That's where the dense battle is going on, where all those wrecks are, and they're going to cause some definite difficulties. It's kind of a nice feature. Advanced rules, yes, I'm playing with all the advanced rules. That does make this a little bit more painful. I have to keep track of first fire, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. That's one thing that's not on the counters. But it's fairly easy to remember what you have to check. I have some questions now and then and probably miss it every so often. Alright, let's put another turn on this video, I guess. We had a wind change. I also set up my order divisions before I rolled the wind change, which is kind of illicit, but that's okay. That's going to be a kind of major effect. Makes these guys running, these guys beating. It's probably thrown some in irons. Anybody facing this way directly? I'm trying to find one. These guys are facing that way. But I think there are some English ships that may be in danger. I don't see any. I don't see anything that's completely in irons. And then with the divisions, well, for the English, a rear command, a central command, which includes this ship, and then the van up here. That left a number of English ships out of command, including this dismasted one, the grappled one, damaged one. Nothing that I expect to really be in the fight deeply. For the French, they're kind of clustered. A little command up here, a command down here under this guy, and then Conflans is taking sort of the loose ships everywhere, including this one back here. This guy's left out of command, and we have some command rolls to make for those. English won the initiative, and for the interest of my sanity, I'm going to pick this little tiny command up here. Why? Because if I take Hawk's command, which I may really want to do, I'm just going to have such a muddled mess to begin with, and I'll never remember what's going on back there. Great reason to make decisions in the game. Simplicity of handing out, of figuring out how to actually move the ships. But anything else is just ridiculous, and this game is so tainted anyway. Okay, so this one's going to be pretty easy. He's going to open fire, but this one's kind of interesting. I thought so. He is not in irons, but he's got a base movement from beating of 3. He's got a -4 movement allowance. He has to get himself into a position where he's running, or not running, but reaching, which means he has to swing around to face up that way. Now what he's going to do is the sternway maneuver that I don't think I've done at all in any scenario yet. What happens is he makes a die roll, subtracts the command quality of any commander on this ship, and there isn't one, and if he gets less than, or a 4 or less, he's allowed to turn I'm not sure which way. I think on his ass. It's not clear here. If the result maybe rotate on its bow. Okay. Up to 60 degrees, one hex side. So if he doesn't, he drifts with the wind and gets to turn. He gets a 5, which means he's going to drift with the wind, which is going this way now, and then he gets to shift into a running position. But that's his home move. I'll take care of the other. And after the British execution of their fire on this thing, I don't know. I can't even remember anymore. You know, I mean, I just did it and I can't remember it because there's no story in this game that can be discerned from the chaos. Anyway, after the British did their thing, whatever the hell that was, the French moved their ship up, exchanged in some fire, took a rake here. They raked this. Then this one came in for a chance at collision here. It didn't. It succeeded in avoiding the collision, which somehow means it stays exactly where it is. It doesn't expend its movement. It should be squeezed in there somehow, but the game doesn't handle that kind of thing. There's no pass-throughs or something like that, in the sense that there's pass-throughs, but there's no pass-throughs that can remain after a ship has finished moving. So that ship just somehow evaporated its movement. Again, I don't mind that kind of abstraction. I think, geez, maybe that belongs here, but so much else in this game. I mean, I spent a couple of minutes dealing with these little piles falling around, and I've got tweezers and everything, but the stacking of the information counters in this game is ridiculous, and that's why I'm going to give it another shot without them. Much as I despise this so far and don't think it's actually worth it. I don't think there's... I mean, even if this played out fine on the sheets of paper, I still don't think I'd like it, but we'll see. So we got to give it as fair a shake as it can, but honestly, I don't know why anybody plays this thing. There are better ship games out there. Wooden Ships and Iron Men, I'm sure, is better than this, even at fleet combat. Alright. Anyway, we're back on the English. Move kind of their central squadron, and they're trying to form something up. God knows what. But some of the ships have moved over here. Some have clustered over with this. This poor sucker, he's got his rigging so hit he could only move one space. Moved in between these two and took some additional fire. He's in real trouble, but this ship next to him is about ready to sink. You can see he's not even damaged. It's just his rigging so shot up that, like a few of the British ships, they essentially can't move. And that's clearly where the advantage lies for the French, is to follow their doctrine, fire at the rigging. The problem with that is a cluster of English ships that can't move can still throw out a lot of firepower and can still really hurt you. So it's not like they're going to surrender if you knock their mast off. Anyway, we're on to the... And we finish things up for this turn, except for cleanup. I can remember the last thing I did. I sailed this ship around doodling about. I can remember some of what happened over here. French ships kind of crossing the T on this, finishing dismasting this one. But I'm not sure what happened here. It was kind of a mess where the English, are trying to reverse course, and it's really not working out well. And then, oh, I haven't done this one yet. I get a chance to ungrapple. Let's see if I can do that as well. And that's all he'll be able to do, and I'll do the cleanup, come back. More pointless chatter without any idea of what's going on in this battle, because it's just a bloody mess of counters without, you know, any lines, any formations, anything like that. And granted, a naval battle is going to disintegrate. Whatever, you know, your attempt to keep order on things is just going to fall apart as opportunities arise and such. But it doesn't make for a fun thing to play out, just like the cav battles in Musket and Pike don't. And moving into turn 13, 14, 15, 16, 4 more fucking turns. You can tell how much this is fun, right? And I'm committed to doing another one of these damn things. Some more French ships. Well, not just French, I think. I think a British ship sunk too, but I don't know. I can't tell anymore. And I don't really give a shit. But some more ships sunk. Most importantly, the prize went down. You know, there was no real point in grabbing that, and I've gotten kind of shot up because I was stuck there. On the other hand, I shot back and did some serious damage to the French ship that's floating around out there. That one's decided to turn and is heading off to go hunt this thing. And, well, I guess I'm still here in misery and looking forward to at least one more game of that.